And hello everyone, Dwayne here. Welcome to Radical of Math. A little different video today. Instead of looking at the chalkboard, which is actually directly behind the camera, we're here at my math desk. In my office, I have two desks. Over here is my work desk, but this is where I do my mathematics revision, the ideas for videos, problems, things thereof. So for my first proper commentary video, what I want to talk about are the tools that students are using to do math are wrong. It's a pretty direct statement. But as I have been going through revision, as I am getting ready to go back to school yet again to further my knowledge in this wonderful discipline of math, these things kind of came up to me and I went, I think how high school and undergraduates do their math is simply wrong. So let me demonstrate. So let's start with paper. So the closest thing I have to loose leaf paper that you would find mostly in high school and in college is both this composition book and this two subject one. This one I got at the Dollar General. So I live about half an hour from the headquarters of Dollar General, just across the state line in Kentucky. And the thing that I want you to notice is first, the paper quality is poor. It's just very, very poor. And if I was just to take a page, it's very thin. And I can tell you already, a standard 2HB pencil, when I sharpen right on it, I have punctured this paper already. That is how poor this type of paper is. But the second, kind of the more important thing, the more general concept I want to talk about is the fact that it's lined paper. Now, if you're taking a language class, history class, i.e. a class that you do a lot of writing, it's quite logical to have a piece of paper that's lined so that your text stays parallel. The issue, however, is when you do math, is most lined papers are not suitable for higher level maths. Once you start getting into, I would say to a lesser degree, Algebra 1, but really geometry up is when the limitation of lined paper really stands out. So here's a case in point. This is a stock standard composition book, 80 sheets. This particular one was made in Vietnam. And if you look very carefully, that is, I believe, college ruled. Let me confirm it's college ruled. It is college ruled. And so it's very narrow. So if I was to sit down and I take my stock standard, this is Amazon Basics, number 2 HB pencil that you can buy at Amazon. If you look very carefully, right up there is Walmart's Pen and Gear pencil. So quick tip, Amazon makes theirs in the Philippines. Those are made in India. The Walmart has an affiliation with Hindustan. So if you ever seen like Nataraj pencils, it's the same company. And so if I was to sit and write, and I wanted to write a mathematical expression like I am right now, the first issue you're going to have is trying to fit the entire expression. So I just wrote that in real time. And you see the problem immediately. It's, even if this was wide rule, which I want to say is 8 mil, I think college is 6 mil space, it doesn't fit. And so now especially with a higher rate of incidence for students and just individuals in general that have neurodivergence, that line becomes an obstacle instead of a help. And so this right here alone makes math harder than it needs to be. Mathematics is really not that hard if it's taught correctly and you have the correct tools. And I don't think lined paper is the correct tool. So, how do we get around that? Well, the first thing is once you get to geometry and up, you really should look at blank paper. The other thing I want you to notice is this is written in standard portrait form. And that means you're not going to get maximum mileage, so to speak, for your math. So the next thing I'm going to say is kind of simple, but for some of you, it may be revolutionary. And that is not only get a blank sheet of paper. In my hand here is a sketch pad I got at the local Walmart. And we have exactly one Walmart. The town I live in is maybe 11, 12,000 people. But we have a Walmart, and people come across the border from Tennessee to shop at our Walmart. Taxes are lower here in Kentucky. What can I say? This is a sketch pad. It's 5.5 inches by 8.5. I want to say this is like B5, give or take. But turn your page sideways. When you start doing math, turn it sideways. You're going to have more room to do your mathematics. Doing it this way will get you into situations in Algebra 2 specifically, is the first example that came to mind, where you maybe get 2/3 across the page, you go down, and then you have this room that you're not using that some of you just go, oh, I'll just go to the next page, instead of turning it this way, and now you get 2 panels of math. So I'm going to show you what I mean by 2 panels of math. So I have the cheapest version of blank paper you can have, and it happens to be right over my head if you look very carefully. That's Amazon Basics printer paper. You can get 3 reams for around $20 at the time of recording. It is mid-June 2025. Turn it sideways. Now, the next thing you do is fold it in half. Just fold it in half. Make a crease. And now what happens is you now have 4 panels of math. 4 panels. And so you can start on page 1, open it, 2, 3, 4. And now what happens is now your math is much more organized. You're using more of the page to do your math, which means you're saving paper. And I don't know about you, but paper is very expensive these days. It's crazy how expensive paper is. Right now at the local Walmart, 150 sheets of the 40% post-recycled filler paper, your stock standard 3-hole punch paper, is 97 cents. But if you were to get the better paper, pardon me, what they call reinforced paper, which is low recycled count, it's over, I want to say it was $227, $257. It's a lot more expensive for 150 sheets of paper. So, turn it sideways. The other thing I'm going to encourage in terms of paper is play around with the dimensions. So, the printer paper, this is your stock standard A4, as in 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. However, I have been experimenting with some different sizes of paper. So, you'll notice I had one of these. This is bigger. It's a little bigger than that paper. Let me show you that. But it's mixed media paper. So I'm going to give you an idea of the size. So it's this big piece is 9 by 12. This is 8.5 by 11. But sometimes you can get mixed media paper for a lot cheaper when you buy in bulk than you can printer paper. So be on the lookout. And so the beautiful thing about mixed paper is when you fold it, and here's some example of some math I have been doing. So the pencil may not show up very well, and we're going to talk a lot about pencils in a moment. But you see, much more organized. It's much more linear. You use more of the space, and therefore you're getting a lot better bang for buck when it comes to mathematics. Now, this is how wild I've been testing. So I went to Jerry's Artorama in Nashville. I work in Nashville part of the week. It's about 60 miles or 100 kilometers from my house here to the office. And so on the way home, I have to basically go by Jerry's Artorama. It's a natural store in East Nashville. It's a hoot. If you are thinking I may need something, check them out. Unsponsored, pay with my own money. It was very good. But what I've been experimenting with is one of these. This is an 18 by 24 pad of newsprint. Yeah, good old-fashioned newsprint. Why? Well, first is the size. But the other thing that you get from the size, and I have some worked out problems, as you could tell, I can fold this into thirds because it's so big. Look at all the math we've done. This was my chain rule revision that I did. And then the other thing I did on the other side is I did some supplemental stuff and tested some fountain inks over here. But the thing is, I have room, and it's structured and it's orderly. And then I can fold it up into thirds, and now it's portable. 18 by 24, so 18 by 8 approximately. And you have more surface area in this panel than you're going to have in this panel. So keep that in mind. Matter of fact, on this whole side of paper, the surface area of all of this versus this, what you're going to find out is this is a little bit more surface area than that. As they say in math books, I will leave that exercise to the reader. So, experiment with your paper. The other thing I'm going to suggest is experiment with your pencils. So, as aforementioned, let me see where I put it at. I put it right here. We are conditioned, because many of us grew up on Scantron bubble sheets, that we have to have a number 2 pencil. So this is a stock standard Amazon basic number 2 pencil. For a number 2 pencil, it's not bad. It's actually decent pencil. The problem is when you're working on different papers and all that, sometimes you need a little bit of help in the darkness. And so I first started and went out to Amazon and bought one of these. $5.50. And this has different graphites in it. So this has 6 pencils. We start at a 2H, which is that very faint thing we saw early on with the 9 by 12. All the way up to 6B, which is that very dark thing you just saw. And then all in between. And for $5.50, you're going to find out very quickly which graphite works for your eyes. And I'm going to say right now, it's likely not going to be an HB. It's going to be darker. So in that case, I found out which one it was. Mine, I'm a 4B kind of guy. And then get yourself a jumbo pencil. Some people call it a learner's pencil. This is the pencil I just got. Koala Tools Bear Claw 9mm pencil. Most pencils, to give you a comparison, this is often like a 6. This is a 9. And the thing I want you to notice, let's see the camera, yes it does. Right here is my pencil sharpener. It only goes to 7.8 mil. So I had to get a pencil sharpener, the old school one. This can do a 10 mil in the large opening right there, so I can sharpen that. If you're doing a lot of math, hand fatigue is a real thing. I am not a spring goose anymore. I turned 50 this year, hence the gray hair. And what I'm finding out is in this finger right here, I have a little bit of arthritis. It's just the nature of things, it's life. So by using a large pencil, there's less strain. Therefore, it's easier to do math. So to give you an example, I happen to have a panel sheet here. And yep, here we go. I had to find. So to give you an idea, that is what an HB looks like on newsprint. And this is what a 4B looks like on newsprint. Big, big difference. So I would encourage you, when you are doing your math, do a darker pencil. The eraser on that is actually pretty good. I do have bar erasers. I normally use Prismacolor. I do have a Tobo back here that I am testing. And then that leads to the other thing of, do I have to use pencil? Well, no. You can use a fountain pen. So this is a Jinhao 9019. I have Kakunos. I have a few Hongdian. I have a Lamy 2000 with a broad nib, which is pretty up there. Iconic fountain pen. And a few others. I have it right here. So not all math is done in pencil. In a lot of European countries, they will use a pen. So don't be afraid to use a fountain pen. Like Lamy Safaris in Germany are very, very common because German students from a very young age are taught on a fountain pen. And so in the conclusion, look at the tools. So I've only talked about paper and pencils / writing implements. Notice I haven't talked about calculators. Calculators and such, that's its own video. We'll just leave it like that. I have some very strong opinions on the plus minus of calculators. So stay tuned for that video. But I just wanted to give you the world of kind of what's on the other side of the chalkboard, what I'm looking at when I'm doing the math on a chalkboard. And it's this beautiful piece right here. There's a Murphy bed in there. Now, I don't know how we're going to get to it if we ever have guests, but it's nice to dream. As you see, my math stuff over there, some of the other books and things thereof. So kind of give you a glimpse behind the camera. So I want to thank everyone for the support you've given us. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe for more content. And as always, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. God bless.